Okay, so I'm going to be doing a VOD review for BlueMoon. I believe you only play Orisa this game, and you this match was, I think you said gold 5 or something. Okay, just low gold. It says this is like one of your first placements. So yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah, I went ahead and looked at the replay, or most of the replay. I'd say I kind of just skipped most of the first round because you said it kind of went mostly fine. I agree. I watched a bit of it, but I'd say the primary two things you're struggling with right now is your cooldown management, right? Um, and your cover usage. Um, I'll demonstrate both these things, but just kind of like as a preface, right? You just kind of seemingly like randomly use your cooldowns. Like I don't know. That sounds kind of like cruel or mean, I guess. But I don't know a better way of putting it. It doesn't seem like you have much of a purpose when you use your cooldowns on Orisa, right? No, actually, that's a bit of an exaggeration. It looks like, especially on this map, you're trying to use your javelin and your spin to get people off the map, which is fine, right? Obviously, like those are things you should be looking to do if the opportunity presents itself. But like on the other maps, right? You just kind of like, I'd say, randomly use them, and you're just in particular kind of randomly using your Fortify, right? Fortify is like a really big one to like to throw away because it's like it effectively like doubles your HP on Orisa, right? You know, you can look into the actual numbers if you want, but you're basically unkillable if you get fortified unless you're getting shot by like a, I don't know, like a whole hog, Discord, anti-nade, you know, something like that. Like that's the only way you're realistically gonna die, or if they have like really good focus fire, right? Yeah. So if you waste it, you need to expect that you're gonna get hard pushed, right? If you're out of position, or play in a position where you just can't get pushed if you waste it, right? You really want to be using Fortify to take like serious ground, take serious space, I should say, or like get multiple picks with it. And end with like an ult or something, right? Spear you generally want to be using to like pin people into walls or push people off the map, right? So you get easy follow-up damage. You can use spear off cooldown, right? It's kind of like Junker Queen knife, where if you hit it, it's really really good and it gives you like really good follow-up damage, right? Um, or give you like your team good opportunities to capitalize on the stun. But if you miss it, it's generally speaking not the end of the world. And spear helps you like push people around, or spear spin or whatever it's called, helps you push people around, right? Eat some projectiles, right? It also makes you move faster, right? So those are generally the instances when you want to use them, right? I think those first two cooldowns, you generally speaking have an idea of when to use them. It's just Fortify. Unfortunately, is the most important cooldown, and it's the one you're wasting the most, right? So you have to use it when you're eating a ton of damage, right, or expecting to, and you need to like actually capitalize on space when you use it, right, or help you like survive an assault or something like that, right? Um, Secondly, you need to play closer to cover in general, especially against the Zarya. You have this really bad habit of just like shooting the Zarya, forcing her bubbles, which is good, right? I don't think you're like charging her for no reason too often, but then you have a tendency just to stand in the open and just stare at her. But really, what you shoot, and I see this. This is a really common mistake. I see a lot of I guess lower ranked tank players, in particular, make. They'll force the Zarya bubble, right? Not necessarily shoot it, which is okay, right? You shouldn't just randomly charge Zarya bubbles if you can't kill her afterwards. But they'll just stand in the open, right? But like what you really should be doing is forcing the bubble and just hiding behind cover, so it gets literally no value, right? It gets no charge, and she's also not able to beam you and waste your resources, right? I'm kind of exemplifying the Zarya issue because you said in particular you struggle into Zarya, right? The key into Zarya is letting her burn her bubbles, not giving her value, which means not shooting her, and not even engaging with her when she uses her bubbles, right? Shoot someone else or literally don't shoot at all. Sometimes on tank you can do effectively nothing, and get value, right? Obviously you're not literally doing nothing. You have to be positioned properly and just hold the correct corner, but you'll still get value by making it impossible to push you or your team because you're just up in resources, right? That's kind of what you're looking to do. Let this Zarya waste her bubbles, and if she tries to push forward or overextend when she has no cooldowns, right? No bubbles. Then you can pop everything on her and just shoot her in the head, and you'll just kill her really fast, right? You can do a lot of damage with headshots, and Zarya is pretty easy to hit, right? Especially when you have team support, right? I don't necessarily mean like healing only. I mean like your teammates can also shoot her, right? You can just blow through, like if she has like one bubble left and she's overextended, you can still shoot her through, right? It's a general like aside against Zarya. You just have to wait for her to get low on resources, overextend, and then like use everything to kill her, right? Um, yeah, but in general, your cover usage just needs to be better, right? It kind of like goes on that thing with the Zarya thing, right? Or builds onto the Zarya tip I just gave you. You don't want to be just standing in the open, eating damage when you have the opportunity not to, right? It forces your supports to heal you. It forces you to use your cooldowns, and you just like don't accomplish anything except making yourself able to get pushed, right? That's the gist of it. There's some other small things I'll discuss in the replay, right? And obviously, you have more issues. You know, you said yourself you're probably going to be lowish gold. Some of your first placements, right? So I think I generally agree that you're probably going to end up somewhere in gold. Yeah, so. Generally speaking, I'd be speeding up through the replay. The replay is still having issues where like if you speed up too much or like zoom around, like if I fast forward or something, it'll sometimes like crash you out to the sign-in screen for some reason. This is fine, right? Unfortunately, it's a Hanzo. Here, positionally, right, you kind of are just there faster than their entire team, right? That's the benefit of having Juno. I don't think it's necessary to go straight to point, but I do like that you're kind of starting to split from your team, right, and set up an angle so that the enemy team has to like worry about multiple angles, right? Orisa is a brawl tank, but it's still very beneficial early on in these fights to set up angles so the enemy team can't just walk in for free, right? Unfortunately, I mean, your Pharah's kind of doing it. Unfortunately, the rest of your team follows you to point, which is not ideal. But you can see like these people have to worry about your Pharah spamming the choke point, right? And they also have to worry about you spamming them on from the point, right? So there's a lot of pressure being put onto this choke point, and the D.Va is kind of making the mistake of sitting here and not splitting from her team and making it impossible for her team to walk, because she just eats a ton of spam by standing here, right? And it's a good thing that you're not doing this, right? Probably not the most ideal spot to stand. I guess for future reference, you know, you could play around this thing, begin with, right? Because you can shoot the choke. Or alternatively, you could possibly even walk all the way over here, right? And play close. I think you end up doing this so you threaten people by like shoving them off the cliff or something like that. Yeah, this is not the end of the world to play on point, right? I think it's good that you took the space early. Just make it hard for them to walk. When the tank goes in like this, and you see she's like full HP, there's nothing you can really do to stop her. You can like chuck a spear at her. Right. I think I forgot to. Actually, I think I kind of partially mentioned this. Spear is one of those cooldowns that you want to use like all the time, right? People sometimes will say, "Oh, you gotta save spear for like this specific ult." And if you're thinking about that, yeah, you can do that, but you should really be using it as often as possible, and just especially in gold, like don't worry about that too much. Just use it as often as possible to try to get like the baseline value out of it as often as possible, right? Like and yeah, just like kind of like the Junker Queen knife, right? It's like not the end of the world if you miss it, but if you hit it, it's a really, really good value, right? So in this scenario, maybe I chuck a spear at this D.Va to like cancel her boosters, and force her not to be able to shoot like your Pharah or whatever. But then after that, like hit or miss, it doesn't matter. I'd be focusing my attention to the choke point, right? Because this is what you don't want to happen. This is kind of like Tank 101, right? When the D.Va goes in, there's like literally you cannot do enough damage to kill her just right off the bat, right? Unless literally 5 people on your team shoot her, which is incredibly unlikely because she is probably like next to full matrix. What you need to be doing is stopping the rest of her team from coming in to support her and taking angles to help her, right? If you let her fly in, she's taking a 4v1 or 1v4, because you can just sit right here and force the entire enemy team to peek you at like this really close angle. Like you see if you're right here, like this is really bad for them, right? You can very easily just win 1v1s at point blank range, right? Because you have so many like survivability cooldowns, right? And you also have 2 supports that can heal you, right? But they're just gonna get like insta killed, right? And if you sit here, you're denying the Hanzo the ability to peek your team, and you're also making it way harder for the supports to take a good angle to heal the D.Va, right? If they play back here, right? They can kind of see her, but like you can see, it's very dangerous for the D.Va if she just keeps dropping and keeps going to the right. And that forces them to walk further out. But if they walk further out, then they're in like killable range from you, right? So I don't think I'll like pause that much in advance. It's kind of like a positional thing. It's like tank 101. A lot of times the tank, you kill the enemy tank by denying their resources. You know, it's an indirect kill the vast majority of the time. So this is good. Like you catch on here. Obviously probably could have hit that spear, but that's okay, right? You get the good idea. It's just a little too late, right? Not the biggest fan of the Fortify because you can see just by holding this corner, you're making them all run away from you because you can still like insta-kill people, right? Or just like do so much damage that you force the double pocket on the Hanzo and force them to run away, right? Which denies the Orisa or healing, right? It's not the end of the world, right? You back up, so. We'll say, right, if you're a bit closer to this choke point, I understand you don't have Fortify now. Again, you kind of waste it there. You could definitely be playing close to this choke to like spin this guy off the map, right? Something like that. Start that from a little far away, right? No real reason to use Fortify. I think the spin was okay. No real reason to use Fortify here, right? You're like full health, not anti-ed or anything, so... And you're not able to like actually be pushing, right? But I'm sure you can see like the power of you. It seems like you didn't really do much this fight, but you actually did a lot because literally all you did was hold this choke and make it impossible for the rest of the Divas team to come in, and both the DPS like feed into your Pharah as a result, right? You're forcing like the Diva to eat all the healing from their supports, which just allows your team to like pick up on the DPS that aren't getting supported at all, right? Here, right, they're down 2. You should be looking either to like pressure them out, right? So the Diva's guaranteed to die, or just like go help your team deal with the Diva, right? There's no reason not to be at least peeking right now to get like ult charge, right? It's okay though. Again, a little slow, but nice. This is fine, right? They're down their tank. It's kind of free. Obviously, no real reason to Fortify, but it's gonna be back by the time their Diva's back, so at least you can easily stall. So that's the case. No real reason to back up here, right? Especially for a Tracer. Like, she's not going to insta-kill anyone without Pulse Bomb, right? And if she does have Pulse Bomb, there's like 99% of the time, like, you can't do anything about it, right? Yeah, they have to hit like a really good prediction Javelin or a good prediction Spear Spin to like stop it. And it's like, you know, you have a Life Weaver pool. You can't control everything as tank, right? The more valuable thing to do is make it impossible for them to walk through here, right? Similarly to like when the Diva flew in all alone, what you want to do is let the one player go in and just hold off as many people as you can from coming in for free, right? It's very easy for you to control the people with no mobility or very like limited mobility, like anyone except the Diva or the Tracer. So like you should be focusing most of your attention on doing that, right? You see, because you're not controlling the choke, the Diva engages for free, right? And now the Sojourn's kind of taking an angle. Not a biggest fan of this like cooldown usage here, right? Because you just use all the cooldowns on the tank. You see she like basically doesn't take any damage, right? You're not actually like gaining any ground or keeping yourself alive with these cooldowns, right? If you literally just stayed point and spammed, you'd be doing pretty much the exact same thing, but without using any of your cooldowns, right? And like when they actually come in to push, you'd have your cooldowns, right? And you wouldn't leave yourself open to being able to push when you have your cooldowns, right? They don't go for you. But they definitely could have here, right? Just walking in on your team, because you literally can't stop them, right? You use your Fortify, so you can't like trade for anyone on the back line. You use your Spear Spin, so you can't like push the Diva away, and use your Javelin too, right? Javelin, again, not the end of the world, but definitely don't want to be wasting other people's benefits. Again, like, you see, you get like in this really bad like cooldown cycle. And that's because you wasted your cooldowns really early, right? You see, you're just kind of like scrambling for your cooldowns that entire fight, having a hard time staying alive. That's because you just kind of wasted them really early on. Okay. I think it's a good idea not to use your ult there. Your entire team is basically dead, so. I think it's okay to go this side. no real reason to pop Fortify. You're probably gonna get sick of me saying that. I don't think I'll pause in the future for this, right? But like, you see your full HP, right? You can think like, oh, I don't want to get slept. I don't want to get naded. Right. Well, if you get slept in that position, unfortunately, I'm not gonna rewind. But you're like perfectly safe, right? You still have your Weaver. You still have your Juno speed ring. You know, you still have your DPS that can help you like stop people from just running into you. And if you get slept and naded, no problem. You wake up, and if they push you, you just fortify, right? And you're just unkillable, and you can just get healed like in 2 seconds or whatever the cooldown or the timer for nade is, right? Like yeah, it's no reason to fortify. Your small thing against Weaver, right? When he has Flower Petal, yeah, you just can't ult. You have to like bait that out preemptively. It's a learning experience, right? That's unfortunate timing for them. I don't know why she didn't shoot a bomb there. Yeah, good attempt, right? I do like that you try to go on the Sojourn there. In this position, you could be getting a lot more aggressive on the Sojourn, right? Again, I'm not going to wind up again, but I think it was your Pharah right here. You're unkillable in this position, right? You have like 600 HP or something like that. If you literally just hold W into the Sojourn, she cannot do enough damage fast enough to kill you, right? So you're just kind of making these shots a little harder for yourself by staying this far away, and you have like all your cooldowns at this point. So yeah, just literally like help your Pharah get the stagger kill, and you just like instantly win the round from that position. It's fine, right? You can say, a lot of people say, oh, you don't want to be peeking now. Small like thing cover usage wise, right? It hasn't really come up much this round. Cover usage wise, maybe you play like a little further back. Not the end of the world here though. A lot of people, the big thing is a lot of people say, you know, don't peek now. You don't want to give them ult charge. But in my opinion, it's more valuable to waste their time coming in and allow your team to spam and just slow down their rotation. Than just like worry about giving them ult charge, right? Because your team also gets ult charge at the same time, right? And you're also wasting their time, right? Because if you just like play all the way back on point, like let's say like this is the troll thing to do, you literally just like set up your entire team at this choke point. Now the enemy team is just allowed to walk into point for free, right? And now you guys have to do the hard work of like crossing all the damage to get to point, right? But since you're already set up, you make it like difficult as possible for them to like make this rotation in the first place, right? Yeah, no real reason to fortify. It's wasting all your cooldowns on the tank. Maybe you're trying to get it off their map here. I will say with D.Va in particular, it's basically impossible, right? Her flight's on a 4-second cooldown, and she has no reason to use it on the bridge, right? I guess if she randomly uses it, you can javelin her off the map. But at the same time, like they also have a life weaver, so like it's almost impossible to get her off the map. You know, you could be like looking for better opportunities on like this or something, right? It's like here again, right? You see, like it looks like you're not doing anything. I mean, you did like, I don't know, 100 damage or something, but you can see literally just because you sat here and like made it impossible for the Ana just to like swing this corner and help the D.Va. The D.Va's forced to fly in into 4 people and just like instantly gets demeched, even though you literally did like 10 damage to her or something like that, right? You're doing like the hard work of like denying all of her resources, and you see like sometimes on tank you can literally do nothing and get value, right? Obviously you're not literally doing nothing, because you're positionally like putting in work, but yeah, you did like no damage. Okay, good cleanup, right? I'd say overall pretty good round, right? It's pretty easy. I think you held the corner pretty well. I mean, it's really that simple, right? You made it hard for their team to walk in. Obviously, in certain situations, it could have been a bit faster, right? Again, I normally skip through this part, but I'm a little afraid. I don't want the replay or whatever to crash out. So. I will say, I don't really know what Orisa's perks are. I do know she has a shield one. I think you end up taking it. I think it's probably a good call against their comp, right? Yeah, I think they eventually switch to Sim too, and like Javelin Spin still gets value against those characters, but I think the shield's probably more consistent. I don't know what Orisa's minor perks are. It probably doesn't make that much of a difference. Here, generally speaking, I'd be looking to come up this way, just to deny high ground, right? And if need be, you can always rotate the point. Yeah, just a thing to keep in mind, right? I don't think it's the end of the world, go straight to point here. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like against Zarya, right? You see she uses the bubble, and you just continue to walk into her. But really, what you could have done is saw that she used the bubble, and just literally did this, right? I mean, literally, it looks like you're doing nothing, but you see you have an opportunity to shoot the Sojourn here, right? Maybe you spear her into the wall, and you just headshot her a few times, and your team, like, I don't know, hits her with, I don't know, someone will hit her, maybe like the Fire Eye hits a spam rocket on her and just kills her or something like that, right? But even just sitting here and just literally being AFK is like seriously better than what you're doing right now, right? Because right now what you're doing is you're pushing into their team, like when you have no resource advantage, right? And you can't stop them from like walking through this choke because now they're on Zarya instead of D.Va, right? So she's actually like really immediately threatening to you on the front line, and you burn out your most important cooldown, right? The only way you can stop the Zarya from just beaming you down is with your Fortify, right? Obviously, her beam goes through your javelin spin, so like yeah, you just burned out your most important cooldown, and I guess Zarya burned both her bubbles, but she gets something in return, right? She just backs up, waits for more bubbles, and now she's at what, like 60 charge or something? Oh, only 40? Okay. Probably soon to be 60, right? 60-ish, 50-ish? Okay, yeah. But you see, like, when she just like baits around cover and like wastes and gets charged from her bubbles, right? And wastes your cooldowns at the same time, she's getting value and you're not, right? She's gonna get stronger like the longer the fight goes on, generally speaking, because she gets higher and higher on charge, right? And she's just gonna eventually burn through all your resources because she just does more consistent damage than most other tanks, you included, right? Okay, that's good, right? You see your teammate gets slept. I'm 90% sure they do. I guess they get woken up by something. Yeah, it's your sim. Once you do all that stuff, you should be looking to back up. Right, you have multiple opportunities to back up. For example, you could like back up to here and then rotate around here, right? And then come to point, right? Your Weaver can heal you, your Juno can heal you if you back up this way, right? You just don't want to be face tanking against this Zarya, right? You see, you're like not playing near cover, and you're just eating all this unnecessary damage, right? So pretty much that entire fight was avoidable if you just played around cover better, right? It's kind of face tanking this Zarya for no reason. I'll wait till you walk forward a bit, and I'll show you like what I would have been looking to do instead. Okay, so just imagine. Unfortunately, I'm not going to rewind. Just imagine we were at that fight. You know, again. What I'd be looking for is I'd be looking to spam the Zarya just a bit, right? You can like tap fire your primary or something, you know, fire inconsistently to try to bait up bubbles, right? And if she wastes her bubbles, right, and she's close, then you can pop Fortify, you know, just walk on her and shoot her in the head a ton, you know, spin her into your team or something, and then just like chuck a javelin at her into your team or into a wall so she gets stunned or something, right? Like that, right? And just like do your best to try to kill her when she has no bubbles. Or if she's not, overextended after she uses her bubbles, right? Like let's say you're like all the way back here and you see she's just wasting her bubbles, then you just sit point and just wait for them to like try another engagement, right? You were already on point, so like it's the onus is on them to like make a move, right? You already had the positional advantage because if you just sat point and literally did nothing, you just would have capped, and then they have to like fight to get you off the point, right? Obviously speaking, right? But again, if you were like in a closer position and she decides to walk forward without any bubbles, then that's a position where you can just use your cooldowns to kill her. Okay. Again, no real reason to fortify. Like when you do this stuff, you're just making it impossible for you to push forward, especially against their comp, because you just get beamed through your spam. Right? I'd be careful about using your javelin for future reference. I'd be careful about using your javelin against Zarya in the future, because I think it gives her like 20 charge, something like that, right? And it is the beginning of the fight, so I'd expect this Reaper to be getting bubbled here, right? Okay, right, that's good. Your team killed the Reaper. What do you need to be recognizing now, though, is your team probably used a lot of their cooldowns kill this Reaper, right, what you need to be doing is waiting to get healed, waiting for your team to get healed, wait for the enemy team to back up a bit. I mean, you can keep walking forward. You can like walk to here, right? Walking cover to cover, so you don't drain your own resources. And then when your team's ready to take like angles or something, then you push in for the 4v5, right? If you just walk straight into a high charge Zarya, you're just gonna die, right? See, right? And that's what ends up happening, right? If you just played that a bit more patient, you would have just won that no problem, right? Because you just had the player advantage. And it also allows the Zarya's charge to decay, right? You both teams expended like cooldowns to get that pick, so yeah. And again, like cover usage, try not to stand in the open against the Zarya unless you have like a reason to actually know, right? At the beginning of a fight, Zarya's effectively going to have 3 bubbles. I guess I'll mention this now, right? She has the 2, like, immediately, and by the time she uses those 2, typically speaking, she'll only be, like, a second or 2 away from her 3rd. So this is something to keep in mind for the future, right? Yeah, so once you see her use 2, just know she only has, like, 1 left in a few seconds, and then after she uses that one, that's, like, a good 10 seconds or so to do something, right? You probably already know what I'm going to say. You see use Fortify for no reason there. Sure, you get the kill on the whatever Sojourn, but I'm sure you can see like in retrospect it wasn't necessary. She shot you like literally 1 time, right? And now the Zarya can just walk into you, so you can't like stop her damage. Right? I think fortunately for you, she was wasting her bubbles pre-fight, so yeah. Her recovery usage also wasn't very good. Right? You should be pushing the Sojourn, right? You know the Zarya died. Like, I'll show you for... actually, I probably should just swap characters. For reference, look how far away she is, right? She just died really, really recently. So you should be looking to push this Sojourn and, like, spear into the thing or something to try to get a pick on her, right? She's just clearly overextended here. It's fine, right? Again, probably already know what I'm going to say. Again, right, if you see they're getting bubbled, literally just do this, right? What are they going to do? They walk close, that's even better for you, right? Because Zarya, I'll give you like another tip for the Zarya matchup, right? Zarya needs to like consistently peek in the open. I mean, you kind of do too. But at like really close range, because your projectiles are kind of large, it's almost like a shotgun. I mean, obviously not really. But you just have the advantage in close range because your projectiles are really easy to hit. You know, they get, I mean, maybe like point blank where they can move really fast relative to you. It's not quite the same. But, you know, within like a meter or 2, you're going to hit like all your shots, you know, right? But Zarya's going to hit like 90% of her shots regardless of range against you, right? So when you engage Zarya from here, she's going to be having the same accuracy. I mean, maybe like here-ish, right? She's going to have the same accuracy against you as she does if she's up here. But your accuracy in like the same scenario is going to like double when she's like here compared to being all the way over here, right? So like you want to be looking for like these close range engagements. And I'll also mention spear is also easier to hit, and it's easier for you to like get in quick positions. So like javelin spin her into your team, right? Just like another benefit of playing closer. Again, Zarya's gonna have her bubbles here, right? She used 1, so she's gonna have, you know, this one here, and like I said, she's gonna have a second one in like a few seconds, right? So, and I will say they also have life grip, and I think they also have flower petal, right? I wasn't really paying attention. But there's no reason to ult there again, right? When you ult, you need to be looking for some cooldowns to be used first, right? Not necessarily all the time. You can ult and force out literally all their cooldowns. But in those situations, right, when you do that, you need to be in a position, generally speaking, not to get counter ulted and have cooldowns afterwards, right? You see, you burn your Fortify. If you had your Fortify still, right, you could pop Fortify and instantly walk out of this and just like blow the Zarya up, right? But since you're stuck out of Fortify for a second, you see that gives them the time to set this stuff up and just like roll your team, right? And this is not, it's not because you wasted your spear, right? It's because you wasted your spin early, right? You just kind of got no value against that Sojourn. You wasted your Fortify earlier, right? Like spear, it would be great to think, okay, well I have to save spear for Reaper ult, but like the primary issue is you wasted your cooldowns really early, right? Now when I say cooldowns, I mean your spin and Fortify, and now you can't sustain against all this stuff. And now you see no Fortify again, and they just run in, right? There's literally nothing you can do about this.
Missteps still lead forward.
Like I said, I think the shield's probably a good pick against their team comp. Again, I'll like exemplify how like silly your Fortify usage is. I said I wouldn't do this anymore, but this is a really good example of like why cover usage is so important. You see, like this is a decent time to Fortify because you were taking a ton of damage, but it was completely avoidable. Well, when I say decent, it's only because you're taking a lot of damage and other times you weren't at all. But this Fortify usage would have been completely avoidable if instead of popping Fortify and walking forward, you literally just saw you're taking a ton of damage and just did this, right? And now they can't shoot you at all. And when they stop shooting, you know, to reload, then you just literally walk here, right? You can come up here, for example, and look, their backline's right here, right? And you can help your sim engage on their backline and completely ignore the Zarya, right? I think about like counter picks is like you should do your best to like completely ignore them if they give you the opportunity to do so, right? Yeah. I mean, not to say Zarya is like a great answer to Orisa and like a really good brawl comp. Orisa would just run over Zarya. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. Yeah. So like this is like also not a good reason to use Fortify. Is you see like it's ending in a few seconds and they're just too far away for you to actually like consistently walk on anyone to punish them for like being overextended, right? Right? You don't have Fortify, don't walk forward, right? Especially against a high charge Zarya. I will mention again, right? There's Zarya's playing point, no problem. Walk up this way, and like now look at your access to the backline, right? You ignore the Zarya and can shoot their backline for free, right? And if the Zarya comes up to chase you, no problem, right? You have your fire to help you, you have your sim turrets to help you, and now your player's main can shoot the Zarya for free, right? And like if she turns for you, then obviously she can't shoot them anymore, right? She has to make a decision, right? I would say another small thing, right? This Zarya is already like at 100 charge, 90 charge. You might as well just shoot the bubble because like she's already like full charge anyways. So just doing like shield or like actual health damage to her and forcing her supports to heal her instead of like healing like their Reaper, for example, or doing damage is more valuable than like worrying about the like 5 to 10 extra charge you can give her, Again, same thing, right? We'll say, right, you get punished for wasting your Fortify again, right here. You can't walk forward, because you wasted earlier, right? Yeah, I think this round is probably over. I didn't watch the end of this round. I would, again, skip forward, but, yeah. Still a little afraid that the game's gonna randomly crash. Or randomly go to the sign-in screen.
Score 1-1.
Yeah, so I guess in this meantime, if you want any more advice against the Zarya, right, feel free to ask. I think, like I said, you're not like charging her too much. Okay, swap Rein here. I actually didn't watch this round, so yeah, but I'm expecting similar issues on Rein. I will say, since you swap Rein, I do think Rein's pretty good in Zarya. One, you can easily like do the thing you were doing against the Diva on first point to Zarya, right? She can't easily walk in against you because yeah, you just take forever to burn through Zarya wise, right? She just like even at full charge, she takes still forever to burn through your shield. And you can easily split her from her backline like you're doing the Diva on the first point as a result, right? You can also very easily bait out bubbles from the Zarya, right? You can like fire strike, in their general direction, but like too high or something like that. Or you can start a swing and hold shield, right? You can actually cancel your swing at any time. And right? And just give her 0 charge, right? You can easily bait out bubbles on Rein, and if you pin her into your team, she's just gonna get insta killed, right? She's pretty frail. And you can also do that thing. Remember on the control point, I think it's called. Well, I said you want to play that close angle against the Zarya because you do full damage or like more consistent damage, and she's gonna do the same damage no matter her range, more or less. It's the same thing on Rein, right? But like obviously on Rein, you do 0 damage at range, and you do like 100% damage at like within 5 meters, right? So just don't peek her too much. And I'm expecting you're gonna have the same issue. Like the way Zarya beats Reinhardt is if she's full charge and just eventually overwhelms them, right? Just because she forces you in the open too much and is allowed just to burn through all your resources eventually, right? Yeah, so it's like if you have the same problem on Rein that you do have on Orisa, where you're just face tanking her too much and not taking cover, I'm expecting a similar problem, right? I will say in the future, like as you rank up, generally speaking, Sims they'll speed ring out of spawn and like teleport from here to point. But yeah, I think your Sim did this last round too, right? So maybe you look out for her teleporter. Yeah, it's kind of strange she did it this early, but what are you gonna do, right? I guess she's sneaky thing. I guess our Reaper went straight to point. This is fine. Again, no real reason to be peeking right now, right? You see you're just taking all this unnecessary damage and yeah, getting nothing in return. Literally, like, again, you're doing is seemingly nothing by literally just standing here AFK, but you're denying them the ability to walk through these doorways and help their Reaper, right? Let your team take the now 3v. It's unfortunate that your Pharah instant died, but let your team take like the unfair fight against the Reaper, right? Again, when they have all their cooldowns, don't do stuff like that, obviously. Like, you just insta-died. I think there's Zarya also had a bubble still there. She used, like, 2, and she was about to have her 3rd, so, yeah. I mean, against Ana, don't do that stuff, right? Okay, she actually only used 1 bubble early on, too, I believe, so. Yeah, there's, like, no way you get away with that, right? Here, I'd be careful about committing. You see 2 people are still in spawn, right? I guess your fire just died again. But you knew some people were dying, right? And some people were coming back. Yeah, so you just want to wait for your team to, like, regroup, right? At least you can help your supports get out. Okay, nice. Tell them to fall back. No guarantee they will. That was worth a shot because he was, like, really overextended, so there's a chance, like, if you do it really fast and pin him right here, he doesn't wraith in time, and the Zarya won't be in position to bubble, right? An alternative is to just commit on the Sojourn, right? I'm not 100% sure if you could see her beforehand, right? She's the most killable person. I will say in the future, right? When you go this way, you see you're giving them a lot of time to respond to you walking this way, right? A lot of like the sight lines are really long, right? Because they're gonna default to like playing around here. But if you come from the side, right? You see like their sight lines are much worse based on where they're positioned, right? It gives you a much easier time, one, to like wrap any doorway you want to go to, and instantly got all of them, right? So yeah, just something to keep in mind in the future. But if your team's going this way, right, you don't have much choice. Again, right, there's Ana has both her cooldowns, right, and Zarya probably still has 1 bubble. Just gonna die for doing that good stuff, right? One thing on Rein, I guess I should have mentioned, if you know their Ana has cooldowns, and you know their Zarya has cooldowns, right, what you can do is start a charge, and then instantly cancel it, right, if you hit shift again. It has like a minimum amount of charge time, but it's really short. You can like charge from here to like here and instant cancel it and then hold out shield, and they'll just like throw all their cooldowns on you, especially in gold, and you'll just like open up a huge window of opportunity for your team to like walk in, right? Because now they don't have safe. They probably used a bubble, and like you only wasted your charge, right? You still have a full HP shield or whatever. I think Ramatra also can work against Zarya, right? He can play pretty fast into her.
The point is vulnerable. Let us take it.
I will say, even though you kind of fed that fight, you still got value because you did force out everyone's cooldowns, right? You got out a bubble, you got out sleep, you got out an aid, and you forced literally everyone to look at you. So could have been a lot cleaner, but you sometimes can get value feeding from certain tanks, right? If you play like, I don't know if you play Hog, but like Hog, if you do something like that, you're just gonna get literally no value because what happens? This is kind of an aside, but like what happens, right? You walk in, just you wide peek against Anna, you get slapped-naded, and just like get insta-killed and choke and do nothing. But on Rein, right, you pin in, and now you're in the middle of their team, and like now everyone's staring at you, right? And that's kind of the difference, right? Kind of a random aside. It just goes to show you, like on characters with mobility, you can get away with stuff like that, but when you play like slow tanks, right, you, generally speaking, just get feed and just die and do nothing. Not a fan of the shield, right? The only person you can see is the Zarya, and like, what are you gonna do, right? The Zarya's too far away to shoot literally anyone on your team, right? I mean, obviously you can right-click him, but like, if you shoot the Zarya, she's just gonna bubble, right? I mean, I guess you can say you can force out her bubbles this way, like bait them out, but you can do the exact same thing without it even shielding, right? So, yeah. Again, Anna has both her cooldowns. Be careful doing that stuff. I think the Zarya's still at a bubble at least. The entire time the Sojourn was isolated on the left, right? Potential better spam target. And because you wasted that, Nemesis form is kind of like Fortify and Orisa, right? When you use it, it makes it really easy for them to push in because you can't sustain nearly as well, right? Ramatra is fairly frail when it is Nemesis form, right? You get it back right there. Your entire team's grouped up, right? Yeah, I wouldn't take that fight too seriously, right? They used a lot of ults. I mean, I guess your team did too. That's okay. I will say also, if you don't have experience on other characters, right? If you're an Orisa main, I think generally speaking, it's better just to stick it out on your main than like swapping to characters you have like no time in, right? Not saying that's necessarily the case, but like, don't feel pressured by your teammates to swap necessarily. That's an okay shield, right? Maybe you can see that the Zarya was like holding this angle here, right, and saw that she used a bubble and just literally walk over here, right, to have better access to into her backline. But you can see her backline, right? It's not the end of the world. I think you got decent value there. I wouldn't spread it too much. This is a good position. Just keep shooting the Zarya, right? It's a shame you wasted your Fortify, but she used literally all of her bubbles right there, right? So if you had Fortify, like literally right now, you could have been more aggressive and just walked into her, chucked all your cooldowns into her, and just insta-killed her, right? That's kind of like why Orisa is not actually awful in Zarya, right? You can kill her very easily. Nice spear. Definitely push this more. This Zarya still has no cooldowns, right? You still have your Fortify. You walk a bit further forward, right? Just to make your shots more consistent. A good kill there, right? You see, when the Zarya has no cooldown, she dies insanely fast, right? I mean, it helps that she didn't have supports either, but it just goes to show you like how easy Zarya is to punish. If you just watch her cooldowns, right? Fine, spam here, right? Not a big fan of this shield, right? I mean, you haven't really played shield characters, but with shields, you want to be able to actually like shoot someone on the back line. And the problem is they're too close to cover, right? They see you use this shield, and literally all they have to do is this, right? They see you shield, okay, they just literally do this and say, okay, now your shield has literally no value, right? And they just find some other angle, right? And it's an 8-second cooldown or whatever. So you just don't want to be randomly wasting it like that, right? You can't even shoot them, right? If they're already committed to the angle, like let's say they're probably committing now. Like now, if you use shield, you're probably not going to kill the Reaper, but you can at least shoot him for free and like easily force out his Wraith, right? Maybe not the best value, but it's more value than you're getting, right? No real reason to run into the Zarya, right? You probably should have been set up here a bit sooner, but again, like, right, let them walk into you, let them waste their cooldowns, and literally just play here and just like let them waste their bubbles as they walk in, right? No reason to like force the engagement in the open like this. Again, kind of a waste of Fortify. That's okay. Again, not the end of the world. They use like 3 ults there. So, it happens sometimes, right? If you lose fights to like 3 ults and your team uses 0, right? It's not the end of the world. Unfortunately, that's the last fight. You had to kind of win that fight. But yeah, obviously, like set up that fight could have been better, but I wouldn't worry too much about that fight. Okay. Yeah. So in conclusion, right? I want you to manage your cooldowns better. Um, I want you to play cover better, right? And I'll add a third thing. I want you to pay more attention to the enemy's cooldowns, right? Um, yeah, so especially against like the Zarya, right? It was giving you a lot of troubles this game. I think overall it seems like the character. I'm sure you'd agree the character swaps you made didn't actually like really help. And I think that's generally what happens, right? Especially in like goldish, right? If you just play better, you'll just beat like gold Zaryas way more consistently, right? Yeah, and again, if you have any more like random one-off questions about Zarya, right? Feel free to ask. Yeah, or I should say, playing against Zarya, feel free to ask, right? Okay, I hope this helps.